I've been playing a lot of Need for Speed lately, and to be honest, one of the many things that are lacking is Nitrous, or NOS for short. This used to be a very key feature in the Need for Speed games that gives you a much needed speed boost. From the time it came out, almost all car games back in the day had NOS in them, especially during the Underground era, and back when that style of car games was popular. The games used to go hand in hand with the early Fast and Furious movies. They really worked hard back then to make NOS popular, especially the first Fast and Furious and also Too Fast Too Furious, with them using a bunch of adrenaline boosting effects to make the cars look like they were going fast. And Need for Speed really took the hint and added all of that to their games, from hitting the Nitrous button to the sense of speed and motion blur working together like two salsa dancers that have to dance to save their lives, to the massive sized flames that look like they come from the depths of hell that would shoot out of your exhaust pipes like the breath of a dragon. NOS in Need for Speed used to be orgasmic, and now it's just a generic feature that they don't care about anymore. Almost so much so to the point of where it might as well not even be in the game at this point. I am really disappointed with Need for Speed, and yes, I know, the franchise hasn't been good for a long time, but come on, at least put in some effort here. I hate the current state of the games, but shout out to the Boss Gaming for making a compilation video of all the NOS in Need for Speed games. I can't play all the NFS games like they can, so it really helps me out with my video because one can see what has happened to NOS in NFS games. But from my perspective, NOS in the latest games is really not the best, and we also need to remember that NOS is not the most realistic thing, so I never understand why they tried to make it realistic, and it really came at the cost of the things that really made Need for Speed special. I don't own a lot of the Need for Speed games, especially a lot of the older games, but so far I have 3. NFS Payback, Heat and recently Unbound, and I have to admit that I'm not very happy with the NOS in Heat and Unbound. I'll give you an example with all 3 games and their NOS before I start commenting and referencing so that the pacing of the video is better. But here is the NOS in all 3 games, one after the other. I'll play them in the order the games came out in, and here are the clips.
Take this punk out for us. And I'm still right behind you. We got traffic accidents.
As you can see, there is a very clear difference between all the games and their NOS. It looks like Payback still does a better job than Heat and Unbound. The goodness with Unbound is that it really fixed the sense of speed issues from Heat, and you really feel like you are pulling NOS when you use it in the game. The only problem is that the NOS is not really very good either. In NFS Unbound there are 2 different types of NOS. One NOS and the other is more of a boost. Your NOS meter is blue and then the other boost is yellow, which is more of an explosive jolt rather than NOS. So when your meter fills up with yellow it's called burst NOS. The only difference is that the burst NOS is way more effective, but the caveat is that the burst NOS only makes you faster for a split second and then it goes back to being slow NOS again. There were many times of where I tried to catch up by using both NOS types and the person in front of me never got any closer. and sometimes in games like NFS Heat and Unbound, the NOS is next to useless because you don't catch up. There is no significant speed boost to the point of where you can't catch up. The games are more reliant on the AI drivers making mistakes, and in that sense, that is when you catch up. There was one time where I used both burst and normal NOS and didn't catch up to the AI drivers. I will say this though, NOS back in the day was more prominent and almost every other racing game had it, and Need for Speed didn't really do much to innovate on NOS. They tried a few times with games like Hot Pursuit and Rivals, of where they added turbo boost, which gives the car a huge amount of boost in speed that helps them get away from the cops. And that was a cool idea because the turbo boost also makes an insane sound when activated. Just listen to this. As you can see, it's a really cool feature and was liked by a good amount of people, but the latest games don't have that. NOS has been severely downplayed now, and since NFS has gone in a more exotic car direction, the games aim to make cars more faster through modifications and not faster through NOS. One of the modern NFS games that had a good balance between car tuning and NOS was NFS Payback. Payback has a weird NOS system, but that is because Payback has an unnecessarily complex and weird modification system. NFS Payback has one NOS type, but has two different factors. There's NOS capacity and NOS power, and they are both important, but NOS power is what you want to be as high as possible because it determines the speed boost you get of when you use your NOS. Which could mean the difference between catching up to the AI drivers or not winning the race. The biggest problem I have is that a lot of these modern NFS games seem to not want NOS to be prominent, and it makes a bit of sense when you have a Ferrari, Lamborghini or Bugatti, because cars like that are designed to be fast from the get-go. But you take into consideration a Honda Civic or Ford Fiesta, of where you can only do so much to the cars with modification to make them faster. But at the end of the day, with cars like that, strapping NOS onto the car would make them considerably faster, and rightfully so. That would make sense if that was what you were going for. It seems that with NFS, NOS is a concept of its own identity. Whether you want to call it a black box era thing or not is completely up to you. I'm not here to argue about that. But from what I have seen, it looks like they themselves are questioning the relevance of having NOS in the games when considering that there are cars that go way over 200 miles an hour or over 300 kilometers an hour. Because since they have such an exotic car focus, the function of Nitrous is not looking too good when your car goes fast on its own, or in other words, when you use an exotic car. And this has kind of been a hot topic in the racing game community, especially when it comes to racing games, because if you think of a game like Drive Club is a very good example of what I'm trying to relate to. Drive Club doesn't have NOS, and nor does the game have any engine modifications, so it's the type of game that forces the player to drive carefully because they don't have NOS to bail them out of their bad driving. Need for Speed Unbound has really given me a lot of perspective on what is good and what is bad about NFS, and the NOS problem is just the tip of the iceberg on a long list of things they could change to make the games better. I am sure that there are a good amount of people that could call what I'm saying a nitpick, but I feel that it is something that needs to be said. I wouldn't say that NOS should be removed or that exotic cars should be removed. I'll say that they need to work on the driving experience of the NFS games. I feel that this mobile game level style of design that they have chose for some of the NFS games has really hurt the games they're trying to make. It's almost as if they oversimplified all the things they knew would be hard to work on, which makes them look really lazy and ends up ruining the experience of the game. Like with NFS Payback's modification system, and NFS Heat's lack of police damage, and NFS Unbound's NOS system. The games really take a drastic dip in quality because of this. And with that, this is the Chilly Man signing off. I thank everyone for watching. Peace out.